feel that because of everything that's going on here, the value of the city is often overlooked. That we do have resources here for entrepreneurs, that we do have a need for them, that we do need to engage in the community in a different way and in a positive way that takes away from the negativity that we're known for.
I would like to see more attention being paid to the neighborhoods, particularly in the north end and the east side of Flint, because I do see a lot of development in the downtown area, but there's more to Flint than just downtown.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I think there are sort of real opportunities, especially for people that are from this community, to come back and sort of build the community that they want. And I think we're seeing that. So many of my friends, one of them came back and started working for Edible Flint, which just starts community gardens in the city and sort of works to deal with the issues of food access here. The project I'm working on in Civic Park is basically sort of community economic development. Huge piece done by Joy Tabernacle, so they got a bunch of money from Ruth Mott, and they're sort of using the youth to sort of transform that neighborhood, right? So I think
How do you feel about that?
It feels good. I mean, Flint, when I was 10 or 15, was very different downtown, and even in the sort of cities, very depressed in a way that I think it's not now. Like, I think that there's like this real energy to come back to the city, to use your skills here to build something different. And I think unfortunately, some of it's unfortunate, but also some of it is pretty fortunate that there's cheap housing. There's like a cheap way to sort of do this that's attracting people to come back.
Entrepreneurship.
Right.
Do you see a lot of that?
Yeah, and so maybe I'm sort of partial to like the urban gardening stuff, but like I have a bunch of friends that have started urban garden businesses and are like selling at the farmer's market and all this sort of stuff that's caught up on that. As well as people that are interested in like upsizing and catering service and doing that sort of stuff, right?
And seeing the needs of the community and maybe capitalizing on some of those needs, you think?
Oh, absolutely. So a lot of it, like I said, is food access, but there's also like the need for medical. There's also the need for sort of creative opportunities. There's also the need for I would say black-owned business, black-owned restaurants, black-owned places, lounges, those sort of things. And I think that's sort of starting to happen, right?
Right.
So, yeah, I think it's a good time to be in Flint.
So it's definitely interesting, the kind of gap between the generation that came before me, so my parents, and then our generation, because my parents grew up in a generation, or at least on the edge of a generation, where you could still get that GM job with the pension at the end, and so I was kind of raised in this environment where that was the role model, that was the figure to look up to, but by the time I reached kind of the employable age, that's not really the reality anymore. There's not those pension jobs out there anymore. The biggest provider of pensions, the National Armed Services, no longer are providing pensions anymore. Now they're switching over to a 401k. And so it's just the
same thing with the auto industry.
Right, yeah. And so it feels kind of like it's a forced response to the kind of employment field that we're offered now, but in a way that's very much showing off the creativity and the innovation of our generation.
I'm from New York City, so grew up in Manhattan, and when 9/11 happened, the city went through a really tough time, but the city came together. And in interesting ways, people formed bonds that they'd never done before.
Absolutely.
I imagine that's what's happening here. It's clearly going to be something that's elongated, but how do we plan for these types of situations, and how do we learn from it so that we can implement these strategies in other places in the world that are experiencing other really catastrophic places? We overpopulate the earth and mess up here and there, right? So,
right.
It's something that's not so simple. It seems just on television. Flint has no water. It's terrible there.
Right.
There are a lot of really complex issues and ways that people are dealing with it. They're very creative.
What I can say is I see a lot of resilience in the people here. We've gone through a terrible water crisis with lead in the water. We've gone through being one of the top cities known for its crime rate here. And yet and still people come and they work hard and they make their dreams come true in the city.